The boring truth about money that might finally let you rest tonight. A calming, forgettable reflection for those over 50, to help you fall asleep gently. Good evening. If you're listening to this, chances are the day is behind you. The dishes are done, or at least ignored. The bills might still be stacked on the table, but for now, the only thing that matters is that your head is resting softly on your pillow, and the world has finally gone quiet. This is not a story about secrets. It's not about winning the lottery, becoming a millionaire, or unlocking hidden wealth. No, this is a story about something far less exciting, but perhaps far more useful: the boring, quiet, maybe even slightly tedious truth about money. The kind of truth that, if you listen closely enough, might help your thoughts finally slow down and give you permission to rest. Let's begin with something simple. Chapter 1. The numbers were never the whole picture. For most of your life, money probably felt like the scoreboard. A quiet competition, mostly with yourself. More was better. Less meant panic. You earned it. You spent it. You saved when you could. You worried when you couldn't. You planned. You improvised. Sometimes it felt like you were winning. Other times, like you were barely hanging on. But here's the first boring truth. Most of it didn't matter the way you thought it did. You see, money was never the full story. It was just the part we could measure. Numbers in a ledger. Digits on a screen. But what those numbers couldn't capture was the experience of being alive, of living through decades of change, raising children, helping neighbors, enduring losses, sharing laughter at dinner tables. The money passed through your hands, but life? Life stayed with you. Some months you had more. Some months barely enough. But if you're here now, if you're lying in bed, listening to the soft whisper of a story and letting your eyes flutter shut, then you made it through every storm you've ever faced. That's not a number. That's a life. And it's worth more than you think. Chapter 2. What you earned is not who you are. We get taught, quietly and constantly, that our income is our identity. That a career defines us. That a retirement account is a mirror of our worth. But the older you get, the clearer it becomes. None of that is really true. You were never just your paycheck. You were someone's parent. Someone's friend. Someone who showed up even when you didn't feel like it. You were the person who fixed the faucet when it leaked, who made the tough calls, who stayed up late with the sick child, who drove through the snow when someone needed help. And none of that ever showed up on a balance sheet. Let's repeat that slowly, because maybe, just maybe, it's been too long since you heard it. You are not your savings. You are not your debt. You are not your career. You are the sum of your presence, your kindness, your stubbornness, your wisdom. And that's a truth that money, for all its power, never had the ability to define. Chapter 3. The math was never fair. Let's talk about fairness. Quietly, gently. Because this part can sting. Maybe you worked hard, harder than most. Maybe you started with nothing. Maybe you did everything. Right. You saved. You sacrificed. And still, you watched others leap ahead, almost as if life forgot to reward your effort. The boring truth? It happens to almost everyone. The game wasn't built with fairness in mind. The rules shift. The markets crash. The illnesses arrive uninvited. The job disappears without explanation. Inflation rises. 1,000 little events outside your control slowly shape your outcome. It's not fair. And it's not your fault. Understanding this, truly, deeply, can be freeing. Not because it erases the past, but because it releases the pressure. The pressure to keep up. To feel ashamed. To constantly wonder if you did something wrong. You didn't. You did the best you could with the tools you had at the time. That's more than enough. Chapter 4. You are not behind. It's a quiet fear that sits in the back of many minds, especially as the years go by. That you're behind. That you should have done more. That there's still some hidden track you were supposed to be on, and somehow, somewhere along the line, you missed your turn. But here's another soft truth. Almost everyone feels that way, no matter how much they've saved, how well they planned, or how smooth their life appears on the outside. Even the people who look like they have it all together are quietly wondering if they did enough. And the reason is simple. The goalposts always move. The savings target you had in your 30s becomes a different number in your 50s. Then again in your 60s. The bills change. The body changes. The world changes. There is no final destination, no magical point where the numbers line up perfectly, and you feel complete. And chasing that illusion can keep you restless for decades, unless you let it go. You are not behind. You are simply here, which, quietly, is everything. Chapter 5: The Inheritance of Presence. Most people think of inheritance in terms of money. What gets passed down? What gets left behind in a will? But that's only one kind of inheritance. There's another kind. And it's often worth far more. Your children, if you have them, may not remember what you left them financially. But they'll remember the warmth in your voice when they were scared. They'll remember the old stories you told, the way you made tea, the way you folded towels or hummed while fixing things around the house. If you leave behind wisdom, patience, kindness, those linger longer than any dollar. You see, people don't measure you by your wealth when you're gone. They measure you by the calm you brought to a room, by the way you made them feel. That's the legacy that never runs out. And if tonight you feel like you haven't done enough, if some quiet whisper says you failed, remind yourself that money might fade, but the impression you've left in the hearts of others is still unfolding in ways you may never fully see. Chapter 6: The Quiet Dignity of Frugality. There's a certain pride in being careful, in learning how to stretch, how to mend, how to make do. Maybe you know what it's like to reuse tea bags, to fix things instead of replacing them, to save gift wrap, to grow your own vegetables, to count every cent. Maybe you know the thrill of finding a coat in a thrift shop that cost just $5 and lasted for 10 years. This kind of thriftiness, often looked down on in a world obsessed with more, is actually a quiet kind of wisdom. It's not glamorous, but it's rooted in something deeper, an ability to adapt. In a world that constantly tells us to buy, to upgrade, to chase the new, frugality is an act of defiance. A quiet one. An old one. And one that keeps you grounded when everything else feels uncertain. If you've ever felt ashamed of being cheap, let that shame melt. You weren't cheap. You were wise. You were resilient. You made a way, even when there wasn't one. And that's not failure. That's brilliance. Chapter 7: Why the Rich Still Worry. Let's take a detour. Not too far, just far enough to see the other side. There are people in this world with more money than they could ever spend. More houses than they could ever live in. They have financial advisors, accountants, and portfolios filled with strange terms. They have everything money can buy. And yet, many of them can't sleep either. You see, money doesn't erase fear. In fact, sometimes it makes the fear worse. The more you have, the more you think about losing it. The more you own, the more you need to protect. The bigger the accounts, the bigger the anxiety. It's like holding a glass statue in a hurricane, beautiful, fragile, always at risk. So, if you've ever thought that more money would finally bring you peace, remember this: it rarely works that way. Peace is not something money gives. It's something you decide to feel. Chapter 8: The Myth of the Perfect Retirement. Somewhere along the way, a story was sold to us. That retirement is supposed to look a certain way. A beachfront home. Endless cruises. Golf every Thursday. Morning walks with nothing on your mind but the weather. Financial freedom. Eternal leisure. Peace without price tags. But like most stories sold in magazines and brochures, it's not the whole truth. For many people, retirement is quieter. Sometimes messier. Sometimes it's helping to raise grandchildren. Sometimes it's long afternoons with a familiar book and a cup of instant coffee. Sometimes it's clipping coupons, repairing old socks, and watching the birds on the windowsill. And you know what? That version is just as real, and just as worthy. The myth of perfect retirement has made many people feel like they've failed when in fact, they're simply living life. Life isn't a commercial. It's a slow and winding thing. Full of soft moments, odd surprises, and plenty of imperfections. You are allowed to live your version of retirement, whatever that looks like. There is no scoreboard. Just your own rhythm. Just your own pace. Chapter 9: The Price of Worry. Now let's talk about worry itself. Worry is expensive. Not in dollars, but in time, in peace, in health. Every hour spent worrying is an hour unpaid by life. It steals rest from your evenings. It clouds your joy. It raises your blood pressure. It tightens your chest. It makes you miss things, like laughter, or a good meal, or the gentle sound of the rain on the roof. Money isn't the only currency. Time is one. Attention is another. And worry spends both. What if, for tonight, you stopped paying? What if you let the thoughts keep walking by, like strangers in a foggy street, and you didn't invite them in? You don't have to fix everything tonight. You don't have to predict the future. You don't have to solve it all. The rent for peace is simply this: allow yourself to rest. Chapter 10: The Forgotten Wealth of Time. At some point, we forget that time is the truest wealth. Think about it. What are people really trying to buy when they chase more money? Time. Time to rest. Time to enjoy. Time with people they love. Time to escape work. Time to breathe. But if you already have time, even just a little, then you already have what so many people are chasing. Money can't buy your memories. It can't buy the way the sunlight looked on your porch in the late afternoon. It can't buy the laughter you shared around a kitchen table 20 years ago. It can't buy your first dance. Or the feeling of peace you get when you close your eyes, warm and safe under the blankets. Money is a number. But time is life. You, just as you are rich in moments. In stories. In quiet victories. And those are worth more than any account balance. Chapter 11: You've always made it work. Pause for a moment and look back. Not at your mistakes. Not at your regrets. But at the quiet pattern underneath it all. You've always made it work. Maybe not easily. Maybe not perfectly. But you've survived everything you were scared you couldn't. You've found ways through grief, through debt, through uncertainty. You've made meals out of scraps. You've fixed things with glue and tape and hope. You've gone without, and still found ways to smile. You've comforted others while you were secretly worried yourself. And every time, somehow you managed. That's not luck. That's not coincidence. That's you. So tonight, let the record speak for itself. You've made it this far. And there is no reason to believe you won't keep making it through, in your own way. You have already proven yourself, again and again. Chapter 12: When you let go, it all slows down. There is a moment, and maybe it comes later in life, where letting go becomes easier than holding on. You stop needing to compete. You stop needing to prove. You stop measuring your worth by the decimal places in a bank account or the square footage of a living room. You just live. You water the garden. You phone a friend. You hum an old song while making tea. You open a dusty book. You sit still. And in that stillness, something amazing happens. Life slows down. Not because you gave up, but because you finally gave in to peace, to trust, to the quiet belief that maybe, just maybe, things will be okay without your constant intervention. Money worries lose their edge when you stop feeding them attention. The more you let go of money's grip on your peace, the more space you make for gentle things, for birdsong, for memory, for breath. Chapter 13: What we leave behind isn't what we think. People spend so much of life trying to leave behind wealth, to leave behind a legacy. But the funny thing about legacy is this: it's almost never what we expect. You may worry you haven't saved enough for your children. You may lie awake wondering if they'll struggle financially after you're gone. But chances are, they'll remember other things much more. They'll remember how you hugged them tightly at their lowest moment. They'll remember the time you fixed something with patience when they were too tired to try. They'll remember your laugh, your stubbornness, the way you never gave up on them, the time you forgave what others wouldn't. Legacy isn't always in the form of dollars. It's in tone of voice, in kindness, in stories passed down at dinner tables, in the silly songs you made up, in the values you lived, even when no one was looking. When the money runs out, the memory remains. And that is real wealth. Chapter 14. Enough is a moving target. Many people never quite figure out how much is enough. The number always changes. The goalpost always moves. A little more. Then just a little more. Then just a little more, and then it's over. But the secret is that enough isn't a number. It's a decision. You can decide, today, that your life is enough. That your old chair is good enough to sit in. That your faded curtains still keep the light out just fine. That the meals you make, simple as they are, still fill your belly and warm your spirit. You can decide that the friendships you have, even if fewer now, are rich enough to last. That the body you have, even if slower now, is still strong enough to carry you where you need to go. Enough is not an external measure. It's an inner peace. And when you stop chasing more, you often realize you had enough all along. Chapter 16. The house always wins, but that's okay. There's an old saying whispered in smoky rooms and casino back halls. The house always wins. It's true in gambling. And it's true in the economy, in markets, in taxes, in banks. Over time, the system is designed to outpace the individual. Interest compounds against you. Prices rise. Benefits shrink. It can all feel rigged. But here's another truth. You were never meant to beat the system. You were meant to step outside of it. Not in rebellion, but in perspective. You were meant to realize that what matters most isn't held in vaults or stock portfolios. It's in slow mornings, in handwritten notes, in small triumphs and private joys that no algorithm can touch. Let the house win. You don't have to play the game forever. You can step outside, sip something warm, and watch the sunset without needing to own the horizon. That peace? It's free. Chapter 17. Most regrets are about people, not money. When people are nearing the end of their lives, there are patterns in their regrets. They rarely wish they had worked more. They almost never say they should have bought a newer car, or put more money in a mutual fund. But they do say, I wish I had told her how I felt. I wish I hadn't stayed angry for so long. I wish I had spent more time with them. I wish I had been brave enough to reach out. Money regrets usually fade. People regrets stay. And yet you are still here. Which means it's not too late. To call. To forgive. To laugh. To say what matters. Even if it's awkward. Even if it feels like a long time has passed. No amount of financial planning can replace a warm voice or a mended connection. The account that needs the biggest deposit? It's love. And that's one you can always add to, no matter your age. Chapter 18. Scarcity is a trick of the mind. There's something that happens, especially in older age, a sense of dwindling, a fear that the pie is getting smaller, money, energy, time. Scarcity creeps in like a fog. You look at your savings and think, what if it's not enough? You look at your calendar and whisper, I don't have many years left. You look at your body and sigh, I'm not who I used to be. But what if I told you that scarcity is often an illusion? That your life is not measured in the number of years ahead, but in the depth of the ones you still have. That you can stretch a single afternoon into a memory that lasts forever. That joy doesn't cost more with age. That meaning does not expire. You are not running out. You are refining. And there is something sacred about that. Chapter 19. The real wealth is being unbothered. There's a kind of wealth no one talks about, and it has nothing to do with cash. It's the wealth of being unbothered. Not needing to explain yourself. Not chasing trends. Not panicking over things that once seemed urgent. Not letting someone else's opinion ruin your peace. It's the wealth of wearing what's comfortable. Of eating what you like. Of watching the birds, even if no one else sees the beauty. Of having nothing to prove. You get this kind of wealth not from saving, but from surrender. From deciding you've had enough striving. From realizing that your soul needs more silence than stimulation. There is no price tag on being unbothered. And yet, once you have it, you'll wonder why you ever wanted anything else. Chapter 20. The magic of being forgotten, and why it's a gift. At some point, many people begin to fear that they are being forgotten, that the world is moving on without them. Children grow busy. The company no longer needs you. Younger faces fill the places you used to command. Technology changes faster than you can blink. And one day, someone forgets your birthday, someone who used to never miss it. It can sting. But quietly, beneath that sting, is a strange kind of magic. You are no longer under the spotlight. No longer being measured by output, deadlines, or deadlines. You can step back. Be unseen. And in that invisibility, you find something radical: freedom. The freedom to nap at 2 p.m. The freedom to stop pretending to be interested in things you're not. The freedom to walk slowly in the grocery store without apologizing. The freedom to not care what others think, because they're not looking anymore. And that's okay. Maybe even beautiful. You see, being forgotten doesn't mean you no longer matter. It means you get to decide what matters, without anyone else's expectations weighing on your shoulders. That's a kind of liberation money can never buy. Chapter 21. You've already won more than you realize. Some nights, we lie awake worrying about losses. Lost money. Lost opportunities. Lost time. But we often forget what we've already won. You've made it this far, and that is no small thing. You've weathered grief, heartbreak, and failure. You've seen the worst days and kept going. You've laughed in rooms where you once cried. You've helped someone, perhaps more than you'll ever know. You've taught lessons without realizing. You've been the reason someone else made it through a hard moment. You may not have a yacht or a second home, or an investment portfolio the size of a mountain, but you've won at life in the quiet, invisible ways. In kindness. In endurance. In love. In the way you showed up, even when you were tired. These victories don't show up on bank statements, but they are more valuable than any number. And they are yours to rest in now. Chapter 22. What they never tell you about rich people. We often imagine that rich people sleep well, that their worries are soothed by their bank balances, that their homes are filled with peace, and their future is secure. But the truth is more complicated. Many rich people worry constantly, not about having enough, but about losing what they have. They fear betrayal, lawsuits, reputational damage, market crashes, inflation. They count their assets every night like a child checking under the bed for monsters. They too have anxiety, just dressed in cashmere. And sometimes they miss what you have. Time to be still. No pressure to perform. Authentic friendships that aren't based on status. The ability to walk down the street without being envied, judged, or followed. So if you've ever wondered why the wealthy still seek therapists, still feel empty, still need pills to fall asleep, it's because money solves fewer problems than it promises to. And peace, real peace, does not come from wealth. It comes from knowing who you are when everything else fades. You already have that within you. Chapter 23. You've spent a lifetime earning this moment. Think about this. You've survived decades of pressure. Years of showing up when you didn't feel like it. Hours, entire months, spent doing work that didn't always light you up. You've raised others, helped strangers, made sacrifices, and paid bills without applause. You've done more than your share. And now you're allowed to rest. To sit in the soft quiet of the evening and not feel guilty about it. To sip your tea slowly. To listen to the rain without thinking of your to-do list. To nap without apology. To exhale without thinking of what you need to earn next. This moment, this quiet, boring, peaceful moment, is your reward. Let yourself have it. You do not need to prove anything anymore. Not to anyone. Not even to yourself. Chapter 24. The true inheritance you leave behind. People often wonder what they'll leave behind, especially when they don't feel rich. But inheritance isn't just money. In fact, it rarely is. Inheritance is the way someone remembers how you made them feel safe. The smell of your cooking that lives on in your grandchild's memory. The quiet wisdom you offered when no one else knew what to say. The values you lived by. The kindness you gave. The stories you told that made someone laugh when they needed it most. Your wealth, your real wealth, is already planted in others, in their habits, their humor, their sense of decency. Even if your bank account is modest, your influence is not. You are leaving behind something powerful and permanent. And that should let you rest easy. Chapter 25: The Boredom of Wealth. There's something you're not told when you spend your life chasing wealth. It's this: once the chase is over, there's a silence. A quiet. A boredom. For years, money gives you something to do. It gives you goals. It gives you something to strive for: a raise, a bonus, a dream vacation, a retirement plan. It tells you, not yet. Not enough. Keep going. And then, for a few, the goal is reached. The house is paid off. The account is full. The gold watch is on the wrist. The worries that haunted you are gone. But so is the purpose. And you're left asking, now what? Many people find that the peace they expected is hollow. That the joy doesn't last. That the pile of money didn't fill the hole. It only covered it for a little while. That's why so many wealthy people go back to work after retirement. Not for the money, but for the meaning. Because, you see, money can fund a life. But it cannot build one. That part is up to you, and you don't need millions to do it. You can build meaning from the smallest things: tending a plant, writing a letter, sharing a memory, volunteering, reading aloud to a child, sitting quietly with someone who needs company. Money might have bought the chair you're sitting in, but it's these quiet moments that make life worth sitting for. Chapter 26: The Riches You Forgot You Had. Close your eyes and think about what surrounds you, not just in this room, but in your life. The old photographs tucked in a drawer. The mug with a chipped handle that somehow makes coffee taste better. The handwritten recipe from someone who's no longer here. The sweater with holes that still smells like warmth. The phone calls you never expected that brightened your whole day. The memories that come back in a wave when a certain song plays. These are treasures. You don't have to sell them. You don't have to protect them in a vault. You don't have to update them, insure them, or declare them to the government. And no one can ever steal them. They are quiet forms of wealth, and they grow more valuable with time, not less. So many of the richest things you own aren't things at all. And that's something money can't compete with. Chapter 27: The world will go on without you, and that's okay. At some point, everyone faces the creeping fear: will I still matter when I'm no longer productive? The truth, a little boring, a little sobering, is that the world will keep turning. The company you gave years to will fill your desk the next day. The house may be sold, the lawn mowed by someone else, the inbox cleared, and yet, that's not a tragedy. That's life. And in that realization is something freeing. You were never supposed to hold the weight of the world. You were never meant to be the permanent engine of your family, your job, your town. You were always meant to do what you could, while you could, and then let go. The world will carry on. But so will the good you did. It just won't wear your name in lights. It will live in the people you influenced, the small kindnesses you offered, the laughter you left behind. And now, as you grow older, you are allowed to rest. Let the world carry itself now. You've done more than enough. Chapter 28: The Folly of Comparing Bank Accounts. It's tempting to wonder how much other people have. That neighbor with the shiny new SUV. The friend who always seems to be traveling. The cousin with the big house and the even bigger parties. But comparison is a trickster. You see the surface. You see the show. You don't see the debts. The private arguments about spending. The pills they take to sleep. The gnawing fear that it's never enough. Money can make a loud display. But it cannot quiet the soul, and for all you know, they're comparing themselves to someone else too. The whole world is spinning in a wheel of not enough, chasing illusions. But you can choose to step off. You can put down the ruler. You can stop measuring. You can say, this is what I have. This is who I am. And it is enough. What a gift, to be done with the race. Chapter 29: The Freedom of Not Wanting More. Wanting more is exhausting. It's the feeling that whispers after every achievement. Yes, but... A better phone. A newer car. A bigger living room. A slightly more luxurious vacation. Just a little more security. Just a little more. The problem is, more never ends. But somewhere along the line, and maybe, just maybe, right now, you can decide to want less. And in that wanting less, you gain more than you ever thought possible. You gain peace, time, gratitude, the ability to sit in a room without feeling behind, the joy of simplicity, the strange comfort of being content. This is the kind of wealth that can't be taxed. That doesn't crash when markets fall. That doesn't depend on headlines or elections or exchange rates. Wanting less is the secret door to freedom. And it's one you've had the key to all along. Chapter 30. Retirement is not an ending. For years, retirement was painted like a finish line. The end of the road. The end of usefulness. A gold watch, a farewell party, and the slow fade into irrelevance. But what if that story was never true? Retirement isn't an ending. It's a shift. A long, quiet chapter filled with space. And space is valuable. Space to think. To reflect. To try something just because it's interesting, not because it pays. Some of the most important paintings, books, and inventions in history were made after the age of 60. But most of them weren't made for money. They were made because finally, at last, time and curiosity met without urgency. You may no longer be on someone's payroll, but your life still has great work left in it. Work like mentoring, like creating, like healing, like listening, like being the calm in someone else's storm. Money doesn't have to fund all of this. Some of it runs on presence alone. And you have more of that now than ever. Chapter 31. The Economics of Memory. Let's pretend, just for a moment, that memory had a currency. What would be valuable? Would it be the paycheck you got in March 1989? Or the look on your partner's face when they first saw you in that old sweater? Would it be the tax return you filed in 2006? Or the smell of the soup that your mother made, long after she was gone? Would it be the balance in your account the day you retire? Or the feeling of your grandchild's tiny hand wrapping around your finger? You already know the answer. In the economy of memory, only the soul holds value. And in that economy, you're already wealthy, whether you realize it or not. You don't remember the digits. You remember the laughter, the tears, the faces, the way the sun felt on your back while you walked home. That's the economy worth investing in now. And it pays dividends in peace. Chapter 32. The world is noisier than it used to be. There's so much noise now. Financial news updates every hour. Social media scrolling through strangers' successes. Podcasts on how to get rich quick. Retirement calculators. Investment advice from people half your age. Articles about what you should have saved by now. It's enough to make even the calmest person restless. But you don't have to listen to all of it. In fact, you can unplug, you can turn the volume down. You can choose slowness over speed. You can take a walk without your phone. You can let silence reclaim your attention. Because long before apps, algorithms, or index funds, there was breath. There was stillness. There was a world outside your window full of ordinary beauty. That world still exists. And it has nothing to sell you. Just something to offer, peace, the kind that money cannot buy. Chapter 33. Your financial past deserves forgiveness. Everyone makes mistakes with money. Some are small, a forgotten subscription. Others are big, a failed investment, a loan that backfired, a career move that didn't pay off. But all of them are over now. They've already happened. And yet many people carry them, like heavy bags on their shoulders, for decades. But here's the gentle truth: you've punished yourself enough. It's time to forgive the version of you who didn't know better. The you who tried. The you who made a choice with the information they had. The you who trusted the wrong person. The you who hoped things would work out. You wouldn't hold your friends' mistakes against them for 30 years. Why do it to yourself? Forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about freeing up space inside you, space for joy, rest, and maybe even peace. Tonight, let one old regret dissolve. You've carried it long enough. Chapter 34. You are allowed to rest without earning it. Somewhere along the line, many people were taught that rest must be earned. That if you haven't done enough that day, paid enough bills, crossed enough off your list, achieved enough, then you don't deserve to relax. But that rule is imaginary. You are not a machine. You are not measured in productivity per hour. You are not a factory or an app or an account. You are a human being. And rest is your right. Not because you were perfect. Not because you're rich. Not because everything's done. But simply because you're alive. You don't need permission to sleep. You don't need to achieve to feel worthy of peace. You don't need to solve every problem tonight. You are allowed to rest, just as you are. And if your mind still resists that idea, remind it gently, even the earth sleeps. Even the waves rest between tides. Even the stars dim before dawn. You can too. Chapter 35. Why the future is always fuzzier than it looks. We spend so much of life trying to see ahead. We plan. We budget. We forecast. We predict. We check retirement calculators and squint at charts. We run the numbers over and over, trying to feel safe. But here's something quiet and oddly freeing. The future has never been clear. Not for you. Not for anyone. Even the best laid financial plans are just hopeful guesses. Even the experts get it wrong. Even those who saved just enough sometimes still worry. And yet, here you are. You've made it through every single uncertain year so far. You've lived through recessions, job losses, family emergencies, market dips, and bills that came too early. You've adapted, improvised, pulled through. Not because you could see the future, but because you kept showing up when it arrived. So now, instead of fearing the fuzziness ahead, you might just acknowledge it gently. I don't know what's coming, but I've handled a lot already. And I'll handle what comes, one moment at a time. That is enough. That has always been enough. Chapter 36. The currency of kindness. There's a kind of wealth that builds interest in the hearts of others. It's not made of gold. Not tracked on spreadsheets. Not bound to inflation. It's kindness. Small, unnoticed acts. The warm smile at the grocery store. The neighbor you checked on after the storm. The way you held your tongue when you could have spoken sharply. The phone call to someone lonely. The way you made someone feel heard, just once, when they needed it most. These things ripple. Kindness moves through people like sunlight through leaves, and while it won't pay a bill or buy a meal, it does something better. It builds a legacy of warmth. When your name is spoken decades from now, and it will be, let it be said with softness. Let it be associated with peace. No amount of money can guarantee that. But kindness can. And you've already shared more than you know. Chapter 37. The hum of enoughness. Sometimes, if you listen closely, there's a hum that settles in after a long day. A kind of quiet background whisper, not quite a thought, not quite a feeling, that says, this is enough. You may not notice it at first. You may be too distracted by the headlines, the statements, the pressure to optimize. But it's there. It shows up when you fold laundry slowly on a quiet morning. When you stir soup and watch the steam curl softly toward the ceiling. When you pause halfway through sweeping the floor just to breathe. It says, you're not missing anything. You're not late. You're not failing. This very moment, is allowed to be complete. And when you hear it, you don't need to do anything. Just let it wash over you. Let it remind you that a small, simple life is still a full one, because enoughness is not the absence of ambition. It's the presence of peace. And peace, true peace, is wealth in its purest form. Chapter 38. What if you've already paid your dues? Here's a question no one asks out loud. What if you've already paid your dues? What if the hard years, the long shifts, the sleepless nights, the frugal months, the exhausting responsibilities were enough? What if the worry you carry now isn't yours to carry anymore? So many people move into older age thinking they have to keep proving something. Proving they still have value. Proving they're still wise. Proving they can still pull their weight. But maybe, just maybe, you've already done the proving. You've already done the giving. You've already shouldered more than your fair share. You've kept going when others would have quit. You've shown up when no one else did. And maybe now, at this exact age, in this exact body, in this exact moment, your only job is to enjoy what's left. To exhale. To listen to the rain. To take your time. You don't have to prove your worth to the world anymore. You already did that. Over a lifetime of quiet effort. Chapter 39. The Invisible Luxury of Slowness. In a world that moves fast, fast money, fast communication, fast living, slowness has become a kind of luxury. To slow down is to rebel. To live deliberately is to reclaim something sacred. Imagine this, a slow breakfast. A slow walk to the mailbox. A slow read through a dog-eared book. A slow afternoon nap. A slow cup of tea, sipped until the steam disappears. None of these moments will impress a financial planner. None will go viral. None will change the GDP. But they matter. Slowness is what you get back when the chase for money ends. It's the gift that comes when you stop trying to squeeze every ounce of productivity from your day. Slowness is where rest lives. And rest, not hustle, is where healing begins. You don't need $1 million to afford slowness. You just need to stop rushing. And tonight, as the sounds fade and your eyelids grow heavy, you can choose to stop rushing now. Just let this moment be what it is. Unhurried. Unimpressive. Utterly, beautifully, boring. And in that boredom, may you find peace. Chapter 40. There's nothing left to chase. If there's one thing you've done well, and truly, deeply well, it's survive. Not just survive, but endure. Adapt. Continue. You've chased goals when you had to. You've fought through bills and obligations. You've given more than you had to people who needed you. You've weathered uncertainty and waited for better days. And now, there's nothing left to chase. You don't need to figure it all out. You don't need to catch up. You don't need to squeeze one more productive hour from this evening. You don't need to make one more dollar tonight. You are allowed to stop chasing. Right now, in this moment, in this bed, in this soft, quiet room. You are allowed to simply be. You've earned this silence. You've earned this slowness. You've earned the right to rest without guilt. And even if no one told you that today, or ever, let this moment be your permission. No more striving. No more guilt. No more what ifs. Just the gentle sound of your breath. The way your body sinks into the mattress. The hum of the room. The rain outside the window. And the soft, reassuring truth that you are here. Alive. Present. And no longer alone in your worry. Chapter 41. A quiet goodbye to the idea of more. For so long, more was the goal. More income. More savings. More status. More control. But tonight, gently, lovingly, we say goodbye to more. We turn down its volume. We wave to it from the shore as it floats away on the tide. We thank it for keeping us moving when we needed it. And we let it go. Because now, finally, it's time for enough. Enough warmth. Enough breath. Enough softness. Not in the bank, but in your bones. In your heart. In the very fact that you are resting here, now, as the world spins gently without needing anything more from you. Let enough tuck you in tonight. Let it dim the lights. Let it stroke your brow and hush your thoughts. Let it remind you that everything urgent can wait. You are enough. This moment is enough. And that truth? That's the one to fall asleep to. Epilogue. Drift. If your mind is still awake, that's okay. It doesn't need to shut off completely. It just needs to soften. Like a candle burning low. Like waves smoothing out against the shore. Let every thought become a cloud, drifting slowly past. No need to chase them. No need to fix or solve. Just let them float. The money will still be there in the morning. The questions will still be waiting, but they can wait. Tonight is for peace. Tonight is for drifting. And as your breath slows and your body settles, know that you are safe. You are warm. And you are allowed to fall asleep in the arms of enough. Good night. Truly and completely, good night.